Folks, I'm going to try to keep this real simple. A lot of people believe that these Epstein files are going to come out and there's going to be some bombshell information within it. There's going to be some exposure of people within it. These documents have been around a long time. And if you, on one hand, are to believe the political establishment isn't necessarily representing you and is protecting itself, but on the other hand, are to believe that the documents still remain intact with all this information within it that's just going to out hundreds on top of hundreds of people, well, I got a bridge I'd like to sell you. And don't tell me for a moment that somebody else doesn't know this, in particular the man on your screen. So what if you had this information and you knew specifically what was remaining of the information and you didn't want to disappoint your base? You didn't want to be the one held responsible once it comes out. What could you do? What could you do to potentially shift the blame on someone else? Or just have that someone else do it for you? Oh, Marjorie, you just ended your career. Yet, the man behind you, oh man, he just called checkmate. And I'll explain that in just a few seconds. So much to cover, so little time. I'm not going to make a lot of you completely happy today, but we just got to call this black and white facts because we have business for the country to take care of. And the Epstein files, to me, are a distraction to that. They always have been. They always will be. I want progress. Because when you don't focus on progress, this is what you get. Los Angeles, 9 months after the fires, residents continue to struggle with housing stability. Do you remember when President Trump looked at Mayor Bass in particular and said, make sure this gets done quick? Well, 9 months later, 75% of those residents are still in temporary housing. You see what happens when you focus on stories that don't help people's lives? That's what happens. 1 in 5 households that earn less than $100,000 a year they've had to cut back on food, and 1 in 6 have had to skip medical care. That's what's important. Families, money, progress. But no, we got to focus on all these other stories, don't we? At least there's some justice coming through. Remember the congresswoman who fought back against that ICE official? Well, it appears now the court reversed, and now she must face assault charges. Not being reported on many mainstream media outlets, but we're going to make sure we bring you some victories today. Kristi Noem calling for Congresswoman LaMonica McGivern to be facing assault, resisting, and impeding law enforcement, and now she will, at least for the moment, face some justice. Did you hear Michelle Obama, for whatever reason now, just can't seem to, well, be quiet? Because America needs to grow up before a woman can become president. Again, I seem to miss that there's qualifications for president, and those qualifications are not specific to a man or a woman, Michelle. Can you please, for blaming Trump on this, that he divides the country, you have done a fantastic job of continually dividing the country on race and now on male versus female. Could you just do me a favor? Try to step out of the limelight for a moment. I don't know who wants to listen to you anymore, but it appears you think a whole bunch of people do, so you just continue to stay in front of the screen talking about those who like to stay in front of folks. I remember yesterday. If you didn't get to see it, I hope if you're a restrictor or public, click back to the prior video. If you're on the public platforms, I'll put a link above. I did a broadcast release yesterday, and I mentioned how much all these politicians are so driven by social media. They sit under couches, and they just want to make sure that they feel loved. because they watch their view count. And as long as their view count's going up, they feel that they are being good politicians. And that's scary. And they say such ludicrous things as this because there's no reality in the statement AOC makes. The only reason she would make the statement, well, is to generate attention. Listen to this for one moment. Try not to gasp.
I want to say this right now. I fully welcome Trump voters into our coalition.
That's all. That's all. I'll stop there. AOC is welcoming Trump voters into her coalition. After all the things she said and done, she believes that Trump voters will become socialists. Congratulations. If anybody would like to get in touch with her, you're more than welcome. Shoot me a message. I'll send you her phone number or email, at least phone number for her office and email, so you can get in contact with her and join the AOC party of Democratic Socialism. Does that make any sense? Of course it doesn't. She wants views. This is how it works. This is how it operates today. And brings us full circle eventually to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wanted views, who wanted impressions, who wanted to make an impression. Although Trump had already done what she was asking for. And she gets her just desserts, doesn't she? Oh, he got her. He got her good. Checkmate has been called. We're going to get there really quickly here. Before I do, I want to thank you all again for those of you that did check me out on Lisa's channel yesterday. If you haven't gone to Lisa's channel, I want to make sure you get subscribed over there. I'm going to use her channel, again, for what you've done to help this channel grow so quickly. You see that little subscribe button right here? It's on the home page. Sometimes it appears in different places across your screen, depending on what platform you're viewing this on. But if you go to that button right there, and you click on the down arrow, let's get that out of your way, you'll see all personalized, done, and unsubscribe. Now, I hope you don't unsubscribe to my channel. I want you to go to the bell and make sure it's always checked to all so you're alerted to upcoming broadcasts. It lets the algorithm know that you actually care about my news. The more of you that check all, the more the algorithm knows that, hey, Justice Knight's news is important to his audience, and it's shown because the platform is growing. If you're new here, welcome home. I'd love you to subscribe. Those of you who have joined as members, provide super thanks. Thank you so much. It keeps the lights and cameras on. Before we proceed on to part 2 of the podcast, which you know is at restrictedrepublic.com today, because we got to cover 2 major stories. What's breaking out in Mexico right now. Folks aren't happy. They're calling the narco president out, and they are in full attack mode. But that's only a portion of the story we're going to be covering, because then we got to go to what Marco Rubio just announced about 5:38 last night. And if I was Nicolas Maduro, I'd be hopping on the phone with President Trump real quick. Because Marco did this for a very specific reason. He intends to designate Cartel de los Sols as a foreign terrorist organization headed by illegitimate Nicolas Maduro. Wow. And didn't one of our aircraft carriers just go out there? Actually, it should be landing about right now. Our most sophisticated warship. Nicholas, go ahead. You got his number. As a matter of fact, I think he wants to talk with you. It's time to pick up the phone, brother, because your world's about to light up, and that's the story I'm going to go in part 2. But talk about lighting up. So many messages over the weekend. I got it on Facebook Messenger. If you haven't checked out my Facebook page yet, I'd love you to go there. Just go to Justice Night. And literally, over the weekend, messages hitting Facebook Messenger, messages hitting comments, messages hitting my inbox about chapter. Why? Because it's open enrollment period right now, October 15th to December 7th. I found you a free service, a service that goes out and finds all the packages available to you, presents them to you, and lets you make the choice. Because if you're not calling 805-619-5011, that's a free phone call. Do you know plans change every year? Do you know you can lose your doctor? Some plans go away. If you're not using Chapter to check for you, man, you're leaving money on the table. The average person who calls them saves $1,100 a year. Best part? They do it in under 20 minutes. So if you want to build an algorithm, Use an algorithm to get through all the red tape of Medicare. That's what Chapter's done. It's an amazing company, and I know by the testimonials how successful they are. The best part about them also is a lot of these folks, what they do is they give you the plan that's best for them, what benefits them. That's not what Chapter does. Nope. If you have the best plan, they'll tell you. By calling 805-619-5011, here's your two options. They're going to tell you you have the best plan and you're going to go about having a great day. Or they're going to present you something better and you're going to save money and you're going to go on having a great day. And that's going to cost you 20 minutes. Come on, folks. Give them a call right now. Don't wait. Enjoy your holidays. Get this done. You know the system's backed up. You know the government just reopened, and they've been fighting to get through the system. Now they got to try to catch up, so don't waste time. 805-619-5011. Call Chapter right now. I will give you an update on SNAP, too, because there's some major changes. Changes push millions off SNAP, even as USDA Secretary Rollins looks to bigger cuts. Now, people are freaking out. How dare President Trump do this? Unless you've been following the headlines. Because what they've found is waste, fraud, and abuse. Shocking, right? Trump administration will require SNAP participants to reapply for benefits. What have they found, I wonder? Well, you can find out some of that within the changes they made. 5 changes, to be a little bit more specific. Age limit increased. Able-bodied adults age 18 to 64, used to be 54, must work at least 80 hours per month or be engaged in education, a training program, or volunteering to remain eligible for SNAP benefits. Wow. What a novel thought, huh? Exemptions removed. Previously, people falling in the able-bodied adults without dependents were only allowed to enroll in SNAP for 3 months and 3 years. There were exceptions for veterans, the homeless, and kids aging out of foster care. Those exemptions have now been removed. The caregiver exemption, the exemption to limit time for caregivers of children under age 18 have been changed to children under 14. Waiver criteria, areas with unemployment rate over 10% may qualify for a waiver from work requirements. Federal cost share reduction goes from 75% of the government covering to 50% of the government covering the cost. And the benefits for most non-citizens, SNAP change will cut benefits for roughly 250,000 refugees and other humanitarian visa holders. A major overhaul to the system, but only the beginning because they've been finding multi-million dollars worth of abuse. The system is broke and they're going to fix it. Good morning to everyone in Massachusetts who is furious with Maura Healey keeps looking the other way as waste and fraud explode inside our state's SNAP system. In fiscal year 24, Q4 alone, 1.9 million in SNAP fraud was uncovered. 1.9 million. Another 4.9 million was identified over the full fiscal year. Right? It's a big deal. It's just my tax dollars. Why should it make a difference? But it does. And they're fixing it. Here's Brooke Rollins.
We found 186,000 dead people. We asked for the SNAP data earlier this year. It has never been turned over to the federal government before. We had 29 states turn it over, mostly red states. 21 states said, no, thank you, we're in litigation. From just those 29 states, we have found, again, almost 200,000 dead people. It's remarkable.
And I understand.
So
and the big,
sure
beautiful bill that passed by Republicans, part of that addressed what.
And that's not even to mention the 40% increase in the recipients under the Biden administration. But I digress for a moment because we got a lot more to cover. We got row counter to cover.
The question is, what is the future of Democratic leadership? Who is going to be effective? And most Democrats around the country just don't think that person is Chuck Schumer. I mean, he doesn't inspire confidence. He's not bold. He's out of touch with the grassroots. He's someone who led us into the war in Iraq. Doesn't have the moral clarity on Gaza.
Okay, that part's not surprising. I told you Ro Khanna was going to come after Chuck Schumer as AOC. Now, I thought Ro Khanna would go after, as he says, a younger leader. And I truly thought, it would be one of the Justice Democrats down the road. But we're not down the road yet. And that part I miscalculated, because right now we need a new leader immediately. So you have to pick of the existing Democrats. So don't think my statement was inaccurate, because next cycle we will find out who the true Senate leader they want. But right now they can only deal with what they have. But listen to Ro Khanna's genius for one moment.
But we have dynamic, young, new leaders.
Who are some of the top
Chris
names?
Murphy is a top leader. Cory Booker is a dynamic leader. Brian Schatz is a dynamic leader. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is someone whose ideology I appreciate. There are a lot of great talent. And
Dynamic young leaders such as Chris Murphy, 52, Schatz, 53, Booker, 56, and dynamic young leader of Elizabeth Warren, it's 76. Ro, Mr. Khanna, somewhere you have to start making some sense to your constituents. Maybe, based on what you have to pick from, okay, this is probably a dynamic young leader in the gene pool you have to deal with. But why did you put Elizabeth Warren in that list? Just asking for a friend. Nowhere do the Democrats make sense. Jasmine Crockett wants to run, right? What could possibly go wrong? She wants to run for Senate. Maybe she'll be your next leader, right? A young, dynamic leader who just compared ICE agents again to the Ku Klux Klan. She wants them unmasked. Maybe that's the dynamic young leadership you need. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to make all of you cringe. An update before we get to the primary story, which we're almost 2 clicks away from right now. Kash Patel forced to come out and start speaking on the J6 pipe bomb case a little bit further. Enough of us report on it. Eventually you'll start to get updates. I think you'll see something on that front very soon, he states. We can't reveal our ongoing investigation, as I mentioned to you yesterday. I say stay tuned. We've reviewed every single investigation of public consequence. We are not going to let things lay by and let the fake news media run roughshod over us, specifically what I mentioned yesterday. The likes of Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson coming out trying to force the hand of the FBI when these investigations have to be meticulous. Because remember, some of these could result in convictions. To rush information out and to potentially jeopardize those convictions, who would want that? I don't. I want them done proper. And Patel is announcing that that's what's happening. But now we got to come back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, don't we? Or as President Trump said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's being contacted by private security firms because she's being threatened, because Orange Man Bad is coming after her, because his aggressive rhetoric attacking me has historically led to death threats and multiple convictions. This sounds like some other party, doesn't it? It almost sounds as if you're speaking like a Democrat now, which would normally be kind of a long shot, right, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Except in an interview I'm going to play at the very end of this segment, which shows that you've come full circle. But it appears this may have been planned the whole time, right? Because as I started this entire segment with this entire portion of the podcast, what if you had a set of information that over the years had been so compromised you knew it was going to disappoint your entire base, so you had to find a patsy, someone who could take the blame when you did release all this information, almost making it appear as if your hand was forced. Interesting, huh? You don't think President Trump would think that far ahead now, do you? You don't think he would have found a patsy who was just going to push and push and push, did you? As I said on Friday night, aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from the Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party. including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein and are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationships to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is the Republicans get back on point, which is economy, affordability, where we are winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest levels in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars investments into America, a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal aliens, ending men in women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, so much more. Nobody cares about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive, and if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. So, members of the Republican Party, quote unquote, are being used, quote unquote. And we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party setting records, achievements, and not fall into the Epstein, quote unquote, trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. It does go to shaping my argument a little bit, doesn't it? You don't think somebody's reviewed all these documents for President Trump and he doesn't know specifically what's within them? You don't think he's thought ahead a little bit of how disappointed his base is going to be? He knows his base better than anyone. And his base is expecting bombshell information to be within these documents. And they are going to be historically disappointed. Now, some of the information's leaked out of who will be in there, but is it anybody we didn't know already? Come on, folks. You know how this government works. So everybody's calling this a reversal by Trump. Trump calls on House Republicans to vote to release Epstein files. We have nothing to hide. Was it a reversal? Or was it a follow-through? Or was it a setup? Wacky Marjorie Taylor Greene, remember, green turns to brown. I covered this yesterday. Where there is rot involved, is working overtime to try to portray herself as a victim when, in actuality, she is the cause of all her own problems. The fact is, nobody cares about the traitor to our country. Because all of this is a Democrat hoax for purposes of deflection, like the Russia scam. They had the sleazy relationship with Epstein and should be prosecuted, which is specifically what Trump had already done before Marjorie Taylor, he's got me saying it, Greene, had requested it of him. Which again made no sense to me at all until you sit back and look at specifically what he did. And none of this, again, was conclusive to me until this. Marjorie Taylor Greene went on CNN to apologize to me, to the left, for taking part in her toxic politics. Game, set, match. He not only now has Marjorie Taylor Greene going to be the fall girl for all these documents being so disappointing to the MAGA party, but at the same time, just had her completely out herself for potentially what party and what side of the aisle she's actually playing for right now.
I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward.
Appearing on CNN to apologize to the Democrats for being a Republican, for being MAGA, for pushing back against the system that had worked for years to destroy the entire MAGA party, to destroy, in many people's opinion, law and order, to destroy the Constitution, in many people's opinion, to destroy the great Republic of the United States. And you just apologize to them. Wow. President Trump. Great freaking job. You got her to completely out herself. Impressive. Very impressive. Game, set, match, checkmate, call it what you will. Until that interview, I couldn't tie this up in a bow and close the case for you. But I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene just did it for me. And that should close this saga. They'll release the files. Everyone will be very disappointed in what's in them. And hopefully we won't have to talk about this anymore. The most unfortunate part will be for the victims. I don't think they're going to get the justice they deserve. I think these documents have been so combed through and destroyed over the years that what they're waiting for isn't going to be within them. And that is the most shameful part of it all. But to think our government's going to operate any differently than it's ever operated is very short-sighted. Now we're going to move forward into the second part of this podcast to show you how other governments disappoint their people. We're going to start with Mexico, and then we're going to move to Venezuela. And Nicolas Maduro, who probably didn't sleep really well last night, because if he had his binoculars and he looked out, he saw a big ship pulling up. And then on his phone, he got a message from Marco Rubio. And I wouldn't have been sleeping at all. I would have been looking out at the night sky, wondering exactly when it was about to light up. And that's the second part of the podcast I'll bring you here in just one moment. If you're not a restricted republic, I hope you'll join me. I try to continue on these podcasts at least 4 to 5 days a week over on that platform. That's our exclusive platform Lisa Haven and I created for you. News the way it was meant to be, no commercials and no interruptions. That is our news channel. If you're at Restricted Republic, kick over to the next video. Remember, it's the black and white version of the first part of the tab, which is in full color. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.